Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenas a todas y a todos y bienvenidos a Astroterrat. Soy Carlos Uriarte y ahora el vídeo de hoy es un vídeo muy especial porque por primera vez he podido entrevistar a un youtuber americano, TheNarrowbandChannel. Es un canal de YouTube que está muy bien, la verdad, os lo recomiendo, os lo voy a poner en los enlaces porque tuve la oportunidad de hablar con Ben, que es el que lleva este canal y estuvo en el NEAF. Y le pregunté, le envié un correo electrónico a ver si le interesaba pues realizar una entrevista, lo aceptó, me dijo que le pareció muy bien y entonces le hice una entrevista que tuve algunos problemas. Bueno, ya lo veréis vosotros porque no pude grabar toda la entrevista, se cortó la grabación, entonces tuve que poner más bien la mitad de la entrevista, pero la veréis perfectamente y a mí no se me escucha, pero bueno, yo me he doblado la voz. Entonces, pese a todos estos problemas técnicos que he tenido, lo he podido publicar y sí, os dejo con la entrevista y espero que la disfrutéis.
¿Qué es lo que opinas sobre las monturas no guiadas? ¿Tú crees que ese es el siguiente paso para el futuro?
Which is a beefy mount, and it was a good quality one. And yet, like my RMS was usually about 1.2 at the best. Okay, with my harmonic mount, it's not unusual for me to see my RMS to go down to zero point 0.3. That's four times better. Four times better. Okay, and it's the same class, weight scale, payload capacity, and everything kind of mount. So like I think harmonic mounts are awesome. I think that they're an improvement in just about every single way, as long as you guide, which everybody kind of does anyways. I even talked to Planewave. I think I asked him um, if people, just track their mounts, and he said that only about 20% of his customers do that. The rest of them guide. So
Y muy bien, ¿y cómo ves estos telescopios nuevos, los Sistar, que están ahora mismo saliendo en el mercado y que pretenden ser una competencia? Es una pasada, ¿no?
yeah. That's definitely like an exploding industry. Like, cause I talked to ZWO and they said that it has sold so well, and they've been so hard trying to keep up with production and doing software updates with it, that they actually push a lot of other things off to the side. Like they were working on a new bigger mount. They were working on updates to their current mounts. They were working on newer telescopes. Of course, the camera rotator. All those things kind of got delayed because of the Sea Star, and of course, a bunch of other companies have come out with competition for it, and of course, there's the Dwarf 3 now. I think they're on to. There's a lot of these smart telescopes coming out, and like the only thing I know, it seems like they're mostly targeting visual, okay, like, as a replacement for our human eyes, which are so weak anyways. But I think like more and more you're starting to see them kind of like diving into the photography end of things. And because let's face it, pretty much everybody is happy with Instagram resolution. You know, I know my 294 mm is a 44 megapixel camera, but I bend it 2 by 2 and use it at 11 megapixels because that's all I need. And also that's as big a file as I want to edit. And I know in the beginning, almost all of these smart scopes were very locked in and not modular in any way. Okay. And something else that I saw at NEAF that I think is going to be a trend that we're going to continue seeing is that we're going to go for, is that the gap between a modular system like this, where I can control what components I'm using and so forth, and a lockdown, smart scope, it's going to start getting blurry and blurrier because we're seeing, okay, so for example, Celestron came out with their own smart scope, which is in a lot of ways modular. Like, for example, they said that you could potentially change the filters that are in it. You could actually change the camera that's in it. So So smart scopes, we're going to start seeing in between products that are kind of in between, something like this and something like a C star, where you're locked down completely. And about that whole lockdown thing, like I know a lot of people they get upset about that, like that like oh I don't want to be locked into their ecosystem. It's like well, here's the thing, like as you're making products, if you're trying to make products easier to use, being locked into an ecosystem is a natural progression. Okay, they're two things. It's like water and rain. Okay, they kind of go together, and you can't have one without the other in a lot of parts of the world. Okay, unless you go down the ocean and pick it up. you know, so so being locked in, I think don't let's not freak out about it as much. I think, but at the same time, it's nice to see that we're starting to see in between products that will kind of give you like a half and half. I'm sort of half locked into this system, but I have options. Things that I can change, things that I can upgrade. I know the, I'm gonna be releasing a video today in my channel about what it was Spectrum or Spectrum Optical or what is it? Well, it'll come out today. But anyways, they were another company that I saw at NEAF, and they've kind of come out with a smart scope system where like they have it's actually a lot like this where it's a smart it's a camera.
Sí, porque es que estuve viendo una cámara en tus vídeos en el que se veía cómo se podía sacar del tubo guía y se podía insertar en el otro tubo, de manera que
Mhm.
podía ser intercambiable. Es una
Yes.
cosa bastante divertida, sí, sí.
Yeah, and it's it's kind of a nice hybrid system because you can actually change out all the different parts. Like you can change out the finder scope, you can change out the main imaging scope. And I think it's got to work with their mount right now, but they're of course expanding it. But it's all you're gonna have more options. Let's put it that way. Let's some people are freaking out that they think that we're gonna have fewer options. It's like no, that's not really the way this kind of the market really works. Is generally we get more options, especially in a healthy market like astrophotography, because astrophotography is of every single branch of photography, it is the only branch that's growing. Okay, there are more people getting into astrophotography all the time than ever before, and it's a healthy growing market. It's unlike macro photography, unlike wildlife photography, unlike portraiture and wedding and events. All of those are dying. Okay, and this is something else that annoys me is that the mainline camera manufacturers of consumer cameras like Canon, Nikon, Fuji, OM Systems or Olympus, Panasonic, they're all ignoring astrophotography and they're idiots to do that. Okay, because really, this is the only segment that's growing. Why aren't you getting into it?
De verdad, muy bien. Yo sé
Sorry, I
que
vented there a little bit.
Yo sé que tú estabas trabajando con Olympus, con esas cámaras. Además, te he visto algunos vídeos que estás hablando de ellos. Tú eres, ¿no? De Pro Olympus, que te he visto en
Yes.
cámaras. Entonces,
I have okay. So back in the film days, when that was the only option you had, okay, and I wanted to get into astrophotography. Um, I went to my camera dealer and talked to Bob Novosel, may he rest in peace, and everything. He was a great guy. But I said I want to do astrophotography. I was thinking about this Nikon FM2, and he looked at me and he's like, no. He's like, you want an OM1, and back then, that was the king of the hill when it comes to astrophotography because it was the perfect camera body. It didn't require a battery or anything like that. And so I got into Olympus that way, and I've just stayed with Olympus. For my serious astrophotography, you know, I use one of these. I used a cool camera, but like for my casual stuff and for my daytime photography, I still use Olympus, which is now OM Systems. They had to change their name. Uh, but yeah, and I think it's actually one of the friendliest cameras to this day to get started in astrophotography because it actually has a lot of neat little features built into the camera. Like it has a built-in intervalometer, which not many cameras do. and sure, there's some limitations and so forth, but they've got focusing on stars ability now, and a couple of other little features that I could name that make it easy to start doing astrophotography, to get your feet wet. And then once you get, okay, this is something I really like, I want to go after nebulas,
Sí, sí.
then go buy one of these, okay, and or one of these.
Sí, sí, es verdad. Bueno, pues es que yo estuve trabajando, de hecho, con unas cámaras astrofotográficas, las primeras que tuve, una TIC 383 muy antigua, y luego las que me han dado alegrías han sido con un sensor de 1 pulgada que fue la TIC 460 y encima fue fantástica. Me publicaron varias fotografías e incluso llegué a una pod y esa fotografía me iba muy bien. En cambio, pues mira, sacaron la ASI 1600 más nueva y esa la descontinuaron muy pronto. Yo no lo entiendo porque es una cámara que realmente funcionó muy bien, la ASI 1600. Y claro, tiene menos rango dinámico, tiene menos cosas, pero es que la hacen genial. ¿Tú qué opinas acerca de esta cámara, la ASI 1600? ¿Cómo fue para ti? ¿Cómo ha sido para ti esa cámara?
Yeah, I know the 1600 that is so popular in astrophotography.
Sí,
That sensor
súper
was
popular.
used a long time by
Sí,
Olympus.
sí,
Um,
cierto. Encima una línea de productos bastante amplio que hizo que viéramos muchísimas fotografías muy interesantes de esta cámara, de este sensor, y que hizo que realmente fuera una revolución por precio, porque esa cámara era muy popular, se hizo
oh no,
muy popular y no me acuerdo
the
cuándo salió.
1600.
Yo no recuerdo si fue
I think it
2016
was
o...
developed in 2009.
Puede ser.
It's been around for a while. I mean, of course, it didn't start getting sold as a sensor though. Like it was first introduced in 2009. Like that's when it was built and designed, but we didn't see it in cameras until 2 years later. And that's typical that a sensor is designed and then about 2 years later a camera comes out for it. So it's been on the market for 13 years, uh, in in various different venues and everything. But yeah, of course, the last 10 years, unfortunately, we haven't seen a huge amount of development. And actually, like the last 3 years since COVID, we've even seen less development. It's actually scary how little development. There's actually a website that I follow that publishes all the papers that are released by research firms and so forth that are developing new sensors. And up to COVID, it was getting to the point where there was about 700 a year. Okay, and then after COVID, it dropped to like less than 200. Okay, which is like frightening because like that means that we are headed for a period of time where we're not going to see any development for a while. Which is really unfortunate. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. But there is lots of room for technology and sensors to get better. There's a ton of room. I mean, the future is bright, but it's just farther away now.
Sí, cierto.
Oh,
¿Y cómo ves el futuro del NEAF, de la feria?
the future of the NEAF. I think NEAF will continue to get bigger. Uh, they're kind of at a point where like they're at the maximum limit of that building that they're in. I know they're on a basketball court is where the actual show is, and they pretty much use just about the entire floor right now. And then the stadium where they have their speakers and so forth, that is just about always packed, always. So eventually NEAF is going to need a bigger location. Maybe not in the next 2 or 3 years, but I think 5 or 6 years from now, they're definitely going to need a new venue. But yeah, it's an exciting show, and a lot of companies actually hold off releasing new products so that they can release them at NEAF because they get a lot more press, and it's kind of a fever pitch time for NEAF because for a lot of people, it's Galaxy season, and Galaxy season is really challenging. Most people don't do it, and so it's a great time for a trade show that is specifically for astronomy.
La verdad es que está muy bien y me gustaría poder en un futuro visitar el NEAF. Sería interesante, la verdad. Sí, sí, tengo ganas de ir,
Yeah,
de
yeah. I
verdad.
hope to see you there someday.
También sé del bien cierto de que realizáis ferias de astronomía visual como Star Parties y eso es muy interesante porque puede complementar pues una feria de este tipo como el NIF y poder hacer ya quedadas muy grandes de astronomía que he visto que hacéis con telescopios enormes. Entonces, ¿cómo ves? ¿Has participado,
So
no?
we're plowing Cherry Springs, okay, which is a bigger one here for the eastern coast. Um, it's kind of ironic because it's actually the worst time of year because it's when we have the most cloud cover. It's not very far from my place actually. It's only about a 3 hour drive from me. So, but we are planning to go. We've actually gone every single year for 5 years now, I think, and we haven't missed one. And it's always been fun. And in fact, it was actually like we used to live in the city, and that's where kind of one of the reasons why I got into narrowband is because if you live in the city, you got to do narrowband. And like we were at Cherry Springs, I think 2 years ago, and we were just like, you know what? We hate living in the city. We love this countryside that we're in. It's like, why don't we move to the country? And so we did. We moved out in the country, and now I'm kind of under a pretty decent Bortle Four sky. But still, we love going to Cherry Springs, and it's not something that I go to like try to get great images or anything like that. I I do some imaging and stuff like that, but I mainly like I actually like get my gear set up, and then I go to all the visual guys and I kind of share their scopes with them and get their views through these gigantic dobs these guys bring with these huge mirrors, and they just see phenomenal things. Like we had a guy there with a 24-inch f3 Dob, and I got to see a view of M101 that looked like a picture to my eye. Only it was in black and white, but still, it was just phenomenal how much detail I could see. And so, yeah, star parties are a lot of fun because you get to actually do astronomy. Like NEAF, you get to talk about astronomy and you get to look at all the products for astronomy. But at a star party, you will actually get to do astronomy and you'll learn a lot. So I encourage
Cierto,
anybody who's
cierto,
watching this,
cierto.
you haven't been to one, you need to go to a star party.
Cierto. Realmente a mí los Spartarty son lo mejor que puedes tener porque es una manera de conocer a demás personas. A mí me gusta ir, por ejemplo, aquí mismo a Torroja del Priorat, que está a unos 39 kilómetros, no tengo que desplazarme mucho y comparto esa afición una pasada, porque es una manera de aprender, de compartir, de crear un grupo, de incluso pues generar sinergias, aprendizajes nuevos, ver otra gente que tiene otras cosas. Es una maravilla porque puedes disfrutar muy bien. Y de hecho yo el otro día llevé el 14 pulgadas, un Dobson que tengo que me va muy bien y que lo mostré en mi vídeo, pues ese 14 pulgadas con un binocular de Bader, con esos dos oculares que podías mirar perfectamente y que alucinabas porque lo veías una pasada, una sensación muy buena y encima decías a los compañeros, hey, venir, que quiero que veáis esta fantástica imagen porque vamos a ver una galaxia en un entorno más bien tridimensional y eso es maravilloso y es una pasada de verlo. Yo eso lo he estado viviendo y es muy bueno para compartir porque te llevas unas experiencias geniales. Entonces, te quería preguntar una cosa respecto a las experiencias, porque hace poco estuvimos viendo y disfrutando ese eclipse que vosotros visteis y en 2 años lo tenemos aquí en España y vosotros visteis el eclipse. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo fue para ti ese visualización del eclipse? ¿Lo estuviste viendo? ¿Tuviste buena experiencia? ¿Tú cómo lo viviste, Ben?
We did get to see it. We drove about 4.5 hours to go see it. Actually, maybe it was 5. but we got to see. It was going to be 1 minute long where we were. Okay, so not very long, but it's the second eclipse that I've seen, and I actually wanted to get more pictures of this one, but I didn't quite get to do that because we had a lot of clouds coming through. But we got to see totality, the last 40 seconds of it. We missed the first diamond, half of the diamond ring because way, but we kind of chose our location. My wife planned it out. She loves planning vacations and so forth. And yes, she is already doing research and planning the 2026 one. But yeah, we chose the location because they had a farm there with all these playgrounds and stuff, so that my son could have fun before and after the event. And my 4-year-old, he thought it was the coolest thing, the eclipse. He told me, Dad, that's really cool.
Sí, sí, sí. De verdad, muchísimas gracias, Ben. Lo estás haciendo genial, de verdad, muchas gracias.
You're welcome, Carlos.
Bueno, pues una de las preguntas que te quería hacer, es una de las cuestiones que a mí me tiene bastante intrigado, es ver el futuro de la astrofotografía, porque vemos que hay muchos avances, vemos que hay cámaras con el láser integrado, tenemos muchos avances, pero bueno, vamos un poquito más allá, vamos a ver.
And there's like a lot of different ways that I think the market could go. And we'll kind of end with this. One is that we see the read noise in cameras get so low that we could basically do lucky imaging all the time rather than using long exposures. And that would be kind of really revolutionary for a lot of people because it would mean that we could image through the scene a lot better. And, any person in their backyard would then be able to capture images that are mountaintop observatory grade quality. Okay. So that's kind of one of the things that I see being potential in the future. Of course, another one obviously is these kind of mounts. I see them getting better and better. I was talking to a couple of the manufacturers out there, and they said that we're getting the quality of these things better. The periodic error is still going to be something you can't just let it track on, but they're getting them better. Okay. And so I see mounts, like these things are getting so cheap now. I think that is going to kind of revolutionize the market. And then maybe one other thing that we might potentially maybe see is more guys setting up triple scopes. Like I've seen where they got 3 scopes on one mount and they've got 3 different cameras and they're capturing one narrowband channel in each one. And I've seen more and more people set scopes up like this because it essentially gives you a one-shot killer image, okay, in one shot, okay, with 3 different cameras, And so that's kind of something that I see will be becoming more and more of a trend. And of course, I don't think smart scopes are necessarily going to revolutionize, like get better pictures with, but I think they're going to get more people into this because they're going to start with a smart scope and then they're going to immediately want something like that, and they're going to be able to start making baby steps into the process. And that's something I think that we've lacked for a long time, is that we didn't have a system where like you could start with something easy and get to something advanced like that through steps. Like you had to start on that hard in the beginning, and it was hard. Okay, it was very difficult. I know for me, so many nights I was frustrated and just I wanted to like kick the scope, and quit the hobby. But I stuck it out, and it was worth it. But I think like in the future, maybe like just outreach to new people is going to be wider, and we're just going to see the hobby grow. This is a hobby that will 10 years from now will probably be 10 times bigger than it is now.
Sí, 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 sí. Totalmente de acuerdo. Pues muchísimas gracias, Ben, por esta entrevista que me has brindado.
All right, thank you, Carlos.
Gracias por todo y recibe un saludo.
Bye.
Bien, espero que os haya gustado la entrevista. La verdad es que me ha parecido fenomenal y sobre todo hablar de aspectos relacionados con el futuro de la astrofotografía y de la astronomía, y pensar eso, pues que si tenéis algún comentario, alguna cosa que decir, pues lo dejáis abajo, porque es un debate que podemos lanzar, que podemos hacer para que empresas pues tengan presente cuál va a ser el futuro de esta afición, de la astronomía. También os tengo que decir una cosa, y es que pese a que lo presento en vídeo en miércoles, pues mi intención es poder hacer entrevistas, poder otra vez arrancar ese ritmo que teníamos, pues de poder compartir experiencias. Así que nada, os emplazo a que me dejéis también en comentarios qué os parece este tipo de vídeos, si queréis que siga subiendo este tipo de contenidos, porque pueden ayudar, pues no sé, pues a crecer la comunidad y crear sinergias. Pues bien, lo dicho, espero que os haya gustado este vídeo, y si tenéis algún comentario para dejar, pues dejármelo, darle un buen like y suscribiros al canal si todavía no lo habéis hecho. Hasta entonces, cielos despejados, amigas, amigos. Chao.